Good morning. Welcome to Her Laundry Unfolded. I'm Wendy Babcock. And this morning I have Miss Valerie. Now, how do you pronounce your last name? Nifora?
Nifora.
Okay, good. I don't know if it's like a Nifora. Excuse me. So I'm excited to have you on today because we do have a few things in common, which is great as far as you're a poet and a writer. So I'm just really excited to have you share your story. We're just going to jump in. And those of you joining us this morning, leave us a comment, say good morning so we know you're here. Otherwise, I'm going to jump in and ask you just to introduce yourself real quick and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Valerie Nifora, like we just said. I am a Greek American, first generation, born here. My parents came over from Greece with literally nothing, just a suitcase, and landed in New York. And that's where I grew up. And I grew up in a welfare building. My parents never owned a diner. People did. They were factory workers and they struggled constantly. And one of the things that my mom wanted for my sister and I, who wound up being a very successful attorney in a financial institution, so go Kristen, she climbed the ladder pretty well. They wanted us to have an education. She used to call it the golden bracelet, because once you get an education, no one can ever take that away from you, no matter what. And it was your fallback. And going to school, I didn't do so well. I didn't speak English well at all. And I didn't realize that I wasn't good at it because you're little, you're like 5, and you're like,
right.
I think people thought because of where I was living, I was Spanish speaking, which I wasn't.
Okay.
I had to go into Spanish as a second language course classes, and I didn't know what the heck was going on there.
Oh my God.
I really struggled, and it took people a while to figure out that maybe I didn't have Spanish heritage.
Oh my gosh.
So school was a bit of a struggle, and I'm a little older than maybe some of your audience, maybe, potentially. So when I was growing up, they had something called Iowas. They were like IQ tests.
Okay.
And I was perpetually failing my Iowas.
Wow.
To the point where one teacher pulled my mom aside and told her that she never really thought I was going to amount to much of anything. And that, I just wasn't all that smart.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it's looking pretty good now, right?
Right.
Keep building, factory working parents, latchkey kids.
Oh my gosh.
The strangest thing happened. In 5th grade, I met this teacher, and she just wasn't going to hear about it. She was disinterested. She told me that I had to cut it out. She knew that I was smart. She pushed my desk to the front of the classroom. I missed lunches, and she drilled me. Like, I think I cried every single day I was in 5th grade. It was horrible, and it was brutal. I don't think it would be allowed today. So,
yeah.
However, she changed my life.
Yes. Oh my God.
I'll tell you why, because I got 100 for the first time ever in my life. She taught me how to read well. She taught me how to write appropriately. She taught me how to learn. I didn't know how to learn. No one sat down with me and said, this is how we learn. This is how you process things. This is the type of learner you are. I got my first 100. Then she petitioned and put me into honors in 6th grade. And everybody thought she was a royal joke. But I graduated 10th in my class.
Amazing.
I went to my college on scholarship, and then my Fortune 50 employer paid for my MBA. And it was all because that woman pivoted. She saw something in me that other people didn't see. And that's what changed my life, that woman and that moment. And I think we can all be that person for someone else.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I think that I had my oldest daughter struggled in school, especially elementary school as well. And what's interesting that you said was, so my daughter's teacher, because Jennifer was really fidgety and, she struggled with like math and stuff. Mm-hmm. She put her in the back of the room, which I thought was interesting because now, like you said, the one who changed your life put you in the front of the room.
Yep.
So I mean, that mindset is huge because I always thought it was weird that she put her in the back of the room if she's fidgety, because now she's got all these rows of kids to to look through. It's a distraction to get to the board. So she really did her a disservice by putting her in the back of the room instead of up front, where you can just hone in and pay attention.
Teacher's desk, my desk, right next to it. Do you if you guys remember, like that was like the trouble.
Yes.
Where the teacher moved your desk up and put it right next to her, so she could keep an eye on you.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So I can't even imagine. So you're coming over, and now obviously we're Greek, and they thought you were Spanish, and so now you're basically stuck between 3 languages: English, Greek, and then also Spanish. They're trying to kind of make you speak.
Figure it all out. And I was so silly. I didn't realize I was an English as a second language kid. Duh. I had no idea. As a matter of fact, that didn't dawn on me till I was in my 30s when I went, I think I was an English as a second language kid. So silly.
What about your parents then? Like, as you're going to school, like, what were their thoughts about them trying to make you learn Spanish?
Still don't speak English all that well. So.
Wow.
My mother's better than my dad. My father still has a problem understanding the pronoun he and she. Okay. Oh my God, it's the same in Greek. Aftos, afti, he, she. It's not that hard, but they're in their 80s, so weird.
Well, and then you can imagine like all the other pronouns now that we use, for more diversity, with they and
Yeah, it was just the way it was. We moved away from the apartment building when I think I was about mid 3rd grade, which was nice. It was good to get out of that environment. It wasn't the funnest to grow up in. There are lots of things that happen in welfare buildings.
So what grade were you in when this teacher kind of stepped in and helped you kind of make that shift? Like, what grade were you in again?
5th.
That's that's almost like the perfect space for you. If you think go back to school, that's before junior high. There aren't as many. There's still cliques starting to form in like 4th and 5th grade. But
I always ate lunch alone, so
wow,
it's okay.
Okay. So were you bullied too? I mean, because you were probably very
I think that's what it's called. There was one girl who insisted on who threatened to pick me up, I think every day, almost in gym class. I wasn't the most athletic.
Okay.
But you know what? I had some other friends that said, because of the welfare building, really, that they weren't going to beat me up. So that was like this really weird sub thing. And I think it's because I would help with math. So.
Oh my God.
Of course. I mean, bullying was just the way you grew up. I mean, It wasn't only like school, it was your family. It was your cousins. It was everybody who had something to say.
Right.
And I think what I learned really early on is you have to be your own advocate. You have to feel good about you. And not to get religious. Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
That upsets anybody out there. But in Sunday school, there was this one teacher who said to me that the most important relationship is between you and God, and that God made you exactly how he wants you to be. And it really doesn't matter what anybody else wants. It's between you and him. And I think that was also another pivotal moment, that I don't have to keep apologizing because my existence makes you uncomfortable. I'm really sorry. Like, I try to be a good person. I can, but I can't change me. And I'm not going to change me to fit your agenda or your vision or your requirement, because I'm me. Right. And every day I try to be a better me. I fail. We all fail. We're not like 100%. And then you got to do the I'm sorry. Sometimes you got to make amends.
Yes.
The other part of the puzzle is I was what's considered a brittle, I guess I still am, a brittle asthmatic.
Oh, okay.
So very early on, I spent a lot of time in the ER struggling not to die.
Wow.
And so for me, my philosophy has always been that every morning is a new slate. Right? So as a kid, I didn't know if I was going to wake up the next day, if I was going to have an asthma attack in the middle of the night. They used a lot of adrenaline and oxygen tents that I recall as a kid. And that's kind of the philosophy I've kept moving forward. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. So I don't expect that I'm going to wake up in the morning. I really, really hope so.
Right.
I know that I am. No one guaranteed me. So every day is a clean slate. Start again. do your best. Your failures are your failures, and your successes are going to be your successes, and so be it. You just have to kind of, it's like a one step at a time sort of thing.
Right. And I love that. I especially love what you're talking about. Like, God made you exactly, who you are. I mean, in his eyes, you're perfect, and
Can't change.
yeah. I love that thought process because, I'm Christian. And so, I mean, I love that thought that he made you who you are because that's who the world needs you to be.
That's right. And so when people were bullying me, blah, 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 I don't like this about you. You're too skinny. You look funny. You speak fun. Whatever it was like, well, that's your opinion. But right now, I'm just trying to be good.
Yeah.
And it's really between me and my maker, and this is it. And and the books that you see back here, it's something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to write a book, right?
Okay.
But I never did it. Then I watched this webinar where this person asked the question, what's the most valuable piece of real estate in the world? And people were like coming up, California, San Francisco. But the answer was the graveyard. Because that's where everybody's dreams and ambitions go to die. And I went, crud.
Yeah. That was a big, heavy realization.
15 years, but this book over here, this poetry book, which is called I Ask the Winds, Collection of Romantic Poetry. It's 15 years of my memories taken to poetry of falling in and out of love. That took me 15 years, but it got published.
That's amazing.
And it won a gold award by the Nonfictions Author Association, which was pretty cool.
That's really cool.
And my permission to talk about my welfare, upbringing was in this book, Passed Down from Mom, which is an anthology of people telling their different stories. And I talk about my mom and what she taught me about resilience. It's a little piece called All Ants Need Their Mother.
Oh, wow.
You're not supposed to tell people that you grew up poor, right? That's like some weird thing, like some strange, something to hide. And I don't want to hide it anymore. Yeah, I grew up in a welfare building, and yeah, it stunk.
Yeah, that's amazing. So where can people get your book? Is that like on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, or?
Get it at Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, bookstore.com.
I'm going to put the names of your books in the comments here. So what was it? I already, I Asked the Wind is the first one?
Yes, I Asked the Wind. It's a collection of romantic poetry. And this is an anthology. There are lots of people that talk about their mom. It's called Passed Down from Mom. And I have a little piece in there about, my mom and what she taught me. That's and one of the things that my mom taught me was that, in this really awful things that were happening around us in the apartment, and they're pretty awful things that happen, she created this really nice little safe haven for me and my sister. And she kept the place neat and tidy. And as frightening as it was on the other side of the door, it was a really nice, safe place on the inside of the door. And it was just a one bedroom. Chrissy and I slept in the fold out couch.
Wow.
And I don't feel disadvantaged because I grew up poor.
Right.
And it didn't matter. And I think that perspective, my husband still drives a 97 Nissan Maxima. It's in my driveway right now.
Love it.
If we get a better car, sure, probably. Are we gonna? Nah, it still turns on.
Yeah, get you from A to B, right?
Get to where you need to go.
Right. And I love that your mom created this narrative, if you will, of this is your safe place. When you walk in that door, anything that's around us where you feel maybe unsafe, here's a place I made for you to feel accepted and safe and comfortable. I love that.
She did that for us, and I think that's what gave us the ability to keep going.
Right. That makes sense. Talk about amazing principles you were raised with, and to not be like, you're not feeling sorry for yourself today because we're.
Oh my gosh, no! I had a rough day the other day at work, and I was like, really, I'm gonna put my head down and just cry. And my mother's like, no. My mom is not a Betty Crocker mom. Like, she's not the here hug, here's a cookie. You know, she'll launch into the story about how she was really poor and she didn't have shoes and she grew up in the village in Greece and she didn't even have food. And I'm going to complain because I had a bad meeting.
Yes.
I'm like, sorry, Ma.
Right. I mean, I can't even imagine like your mom and dad coming to New York, this whole different place, not even speaking English. I mean, think of.
I have one better for you. My parents had an arranged marriage.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh.
So it wasn't even like we fell in love and we're going to charge this whole world. It was like, all right, let's do this.
That's amazing. And obviously they're still married and,
Yeah, they're still married. They're still old. They're still together. They like shower their grandkids. They're really great with the grandkids. I'm like,
of course.
I didn't get that. They're like, my mom's like, we like them better. I'm like, thanks, Ma.
Right. Oh my God, that's fantastic. And I'm just thinking about all the different things that they must have had to overcome coming here and raising kids. And then, like you said, yeah, that's amazing. And then to have that no nonsense attitude, like you're not going to complain today.
Yeah, if we wanted to complain, we went to my dad. My dad was a little bit more sensitive about those things. He might hug you and sit down and listen to you and let you get your story out. But my mom was kind of like, nope, not today. We're not interested.
Yeah,
and fascinating too is because which spirit on the poetry book.
Yeah.
I grew up with a very different impression of love. Right, because my parents had an arranged marriage, and so there was a lot of deep respect there that had to carry through. So it was different, definitely a different experience. It wasn't like Cinderella, Prince Charming is going to come in and solve all your problems.
Right. So did your parents didn't want you to have an arranged marriage as well, or did they just?
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It's not. I don't think it's part of the Greek culture thing as much as it was when we were, growing up. People kind of marry who they want. I did not marry a Greek man.
Okay.
My sister did. I did not, and they love him. They actually like him better than me sometimes. My mother's like, your husband's always right. I'm like, Mom, not right now.
That's awesome. So do you have a lot of family here then as well in the U.S.?
No, I have half cousins in the U.S.
Okay.
My mother's half sister had come here. And so I have half cousins or cousins by marriage or things like that. But my full cousins and most of my aunts and uncles and my relatives are in Greece. And I didn't get the opportunity to see them much growing up, unfortunately. Right. So we're charting relationships now that we're older, virtually, as it were. But
I was going to say now there's Zoom and FaceTime and such. So, can basically go halfway around the world if you want.
Yeah, one day we'll go back.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So what did your life look like then? I mean, like you said, you had a scholarship and you had this Fortune 500 company pay for your, So, I mean, what did that look like after college? Like, where did you go from there?
I went to a really interesting college. I went to Emerson College up in Boston. I got out quickly.
Oh,
I finished in 3.5 years. I think I was probably the squarest person there in a very artistic environment. And I studied advertising and I just knew that I had to get a job. So I got out and I just started working in my profession. I have a degree in communications and advertising and then an MBA in marketing. And I worked at an ad agency. I worked at a video game company. And then I just accidentally landed, as circumstances had it, at my Fortune 50. And I spent 22 years there, which was amazing. I didn't really expect it. And halfway through that, I had a manager who was amazing. He said, Valerie, have you ever thought about pursuing an additional degree? And I was like, yeah, can't afford it. He's like, we'll work something out. So he sponsored me, this wonderful executive, and I got my MBA from Fordham University.
Wow.
And I would I went part-time. It took me forever. It was trimesters, 69 credits. But I would work in the city. And then at night, I would walk over to Lincoln Center and take my classes. And little by little, I just accumulated them until I got my MBA.
Wow. That's amazing.
I was like, this is back here. I kind of like it. And you can have lots of mini careers at the time there. So I did it.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think people are waiting for like this big, amazing moment to happen when the stars all align, but it's those tiny little itty bitty steps. I mean, 69 credits, that's a freaking lot of credits.
Yeah, that is a lot of credits.
Time.
Oh my gosh.
I always said, start walking. Just start your road. Start walking one step at a time. You know what? That's a couple more credits that you finished this semester than you did before. The worst part is not starting.
Right.
And, 15 years. 15 years.
Right.
But you got to keep going.
Right. So the poetry book is the first one you wrote?
Yes. I wrote that first.
Okay.
And then there was an anthology, and I was asked to participate, so I participated in that. And I started writing a romance novel. I think once you start, you can't stop.
Yeah.
I have a book that I've had on the shelf for about 7 years now that I've kind of dusted off, thinking about finishing.
Nice.
But I think once you start, you can't stop. And it goes back to God made you special. However you are, and you have your own talents. So use them.
Right.
And I don't remember who it was. I want to say it's Irma Bombeck, but I'm not sure. Could be wrong. She said that when someone said when they died, they meet their maker, they want to make sure that all their talents were used up.
Oh, wow.
How horrible would it be to be there and be like, hey, meet the big guy and be like, yes, so what'd you do with these things? Well, did nothing with that one because I was afraid.
Right.
Nothing with that one either. Busy, right? Able to use them and say that I did well in my time here.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that about using your gifts. And I think sometimes we think, well, if I use my gifts, people are going to think I'm conceited or full of myself, and that's what I had in the back of my head sometimes with certain gifts. You're like, well, if I come forward, like I'm good at this, and you say that, what are people going to think of me? I think that's part of that imposter syndrome. Like, who do I think I am to write a book? Who do I think I am to put this out into the world? So did you struggle kind of with that imposter syndrome? Like, oh, I'm a writer, I'm an author, I'm a poet?
Mostly. Yeah, everybody does. I don't know of anybody who doesn't. Yeah. And I think for me, I have a cousin who gave me the photograph. I keep doing that wrong. He gave me the photograph. That's my mother's village on this cover. It's my mom's village in Calitea. And he took this photograph of these two migrant children who were my son just walked into the room. Can you please go? Just a day. These are two migrant children who were
no, you're fine.
Who were there, and for me that was what love is. So he encouraged me to keep going, and he still does. And we kind of built like this 5-year plan together one day, like years ago. And I'm like, okay, so if we were going to do a 5-year plan, what would that look like? And so we just started. You just need that one person in your corner. And then you can keep going from there.
And you know how pivotal that was for you with that one teacher, or like you said, that helped you with the book and stuff. It's that one person in your corner who may not be somebody you expect it to be. I mean, we don't know who God's going to put in our life that's going to say, this person, I'm going to put this person here purposely, and they're going to help you see your gifts and your purpose that I've put you here for.
And it was interesting because there's another gentleman. His name is Mr. Cornigan, Mr. James Cornigan. I don't know if you're out there. I'm going to send you this link if you're not. And in class, he used to play Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Zig Ziglar.
Yes, I know exactly.
Play him over and over. And he started saying that if you have a dream and there's something you want to accomplish, you should start reading biographies because there's a path that was charted. You're not the first one doing it. So learn from people and see what choices they made.
Yes.
And he was always very positive. And Mr. Cornigan's was another pivotal point. I was fortunate. I had really amazing teachers. But Mr. Cornigan was like, look, and he had this really weird thing. I'm going to embarrass him. He would not accept a piece of paper folded over twice.
Oh, interesting.
You made a decision, and then you made another. You didn't follow through. Once you make a choice, you make it. You need to follow through with it. Indecisiveness isn't going to get you anywhere. So if you folded something over twice, he wouldn't accept it.
Wow. What a cool guy. I love that.
It's really cool. He's still around. I saw him at the library before
yeah, and especially to introduce Zig Ziglar to you at a young age. That's very
great.
I wish more teachers would do that, because your mindset, that positivity that he instilled into you at that point, I think that can make or break somebody. And I love that he introduced you to that.
What's amazing is Mr. Cornigan and I kept in touch. We still keep in touch.
That's so neat.
We're talking decades. And
wow.
He'll always send either a positive email or a card or something that's inspirational, something to make you want to keep going. Yeah. And he's incredible that way.
My daughter's had a teacher that was that way in high school, and she'd see him out at a restaurant, and he would just light up to see his students like come up like, oh my gosh, like I am so happy to see you. Didn't matter who it was. He was so happy, like you were the only person in the world, like you were a celebrity coming to his table to say hi.
Yes.
That is,
those people are true gifts.
They really are. And you can see where these people who were such a huge impact on you, and obviously we never met until today, but like I can see you're just this positive force where you're going to, like you said, you're going to keep moving forward.
Yes. And, my husband always asks me, like, what's success look like? So, what does success look like for the poetry book? And what does it look like for the other book? And what does it look like? I think just to get you to visualize where you want to go. And so once you achieve it, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to change the bar now. Because I did that. Now I want to get over here. And this is where I want to be in 5 years. And what's that thing that they say that where your attention goes, your focus goes?
Yes.
So it's okay to have a focus and to have a goal and to have an ambition. There's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes those goals and ambitions don't manifest the way you expect them to. Mm-hmm. That's okay too. But I think if you're using your talents and you're becoming more and more comfortable with who you are, and you can help folks, because I think that's why we're here. I mean, all this stuff kind of gets left behind, right? Like you don't get to take it with you.
Right.
Which is why I find it so fascinating that people are captivated by, the cars that they drive or how big their houses are or their lifestyles. Doesn't matter. Stay here,
Because when people don't remember the car you drove, they remember how you treated them. They remember the memories they have with somebody. I don't think back to both my parents, have passed now, but I don't think back to, wow, mom really had a lot of stuff. No, I think back to my memories and how she made Christmas a huge holiday, and she had the entire family, and she was like the person who brought everyone together. That's what I remember. I don't remember the gifts are great, but you don't remember everything someone gave you through the years. It's their presence. It's what they leave you with as a human being.
Exactly. Absolutely true. We forget that sometimes. We get so caught up in the material world that we forget the joys of just meeting people or friendship, and just being kind. It doesn't cost much to be kind to somebody.
I 100% agree. And I love that you kind of encapsulated it then in your book, passed down from mom, because I'm sure you're not sharing what kind of car she drove. Well, see? So, I mean, the things that your mom passed down to you aren't, I'm sure it's not about all these little material things. It's about all these lessons and what she instilled into you. That's the important stuff that you're going to carry forward.
I always think about writing my mom's life in a book because she had a really fascinating life. And she did nanny in her time when she left the poverty of the village. It was her way out. And she would always tell us, she's like, listen, I've spent time with really, really wealthy people. Doesn't make a difference. Like those things, those places, they don't really make a difference. The thing that counts and people remember is if they're loved, right? And if you love, if you have kids out there, hug them extra. Like there's so many adults I see in the world. I'm like, man, I wonder if they just didn't get hugged enough as a kid.
I think you're right.
No one's hugged you,
right?
And my mother, and just the thing, my mom never told us we were special, by the way. Listen, she loved us, but she always said that we were no special than anybody else, right? So
That's
everybody's the same. Sorry.
yeah.
So nice to everybody. Like you didn't get special dispensation to be like a jerk to any other human being, and they're just as good as you. God made them too, so treat them right.
I think that's a better way to go, because sometimes I think that's where entitlement comes in, where we're like, well, my mom says I'm special. So like, I think that's a good lesson to pass down to your kids. Like, you're just like everybody else. You make your path,
Right.
whether you're born with a silver spoon or not, you're still a human being on this earth, and you have to be kind and forge your own way.
Correct. Yes, that was definitely my mother's philosophy, and she kind of beat that down often, even a few days ago.
After you, I love it.
She's massive. People either really love my mom when they meet her, or they don't. And I kind of have the same impression. You can tell when I walk into a room, and I'm like, okay, read the room.
Right? My mom was that way too. It was either you loved her or you hated her. She owned a bar for 18 years. And people loved her or they hated her. There was never, she had a very strong personality. Same thing. She was very kind. She gave a lot, but she was a no BS woman.
Yes. Takes time, doesn't it? At least you know where you stand.
Yeah. And she would never just be nice. She was kind, but if you crossed her, she wasn't going to, just save face and just be like sweet to you. She'll tell you.
Yes.
Like, you did this? I'm not having it,
And the nice thing about it is my mother always left space for you to redeem yourself. Like, she'd forgive you, but you had to put in an effort.
Right. She was able to give grace. I love that.
Yeah, she had to really believe you meant you were sorry and that you weren't going to do it again. Like, so she forgave everybody, which was nice. That was nice that she wasn't like a grudge holder. My mother doesn't hold really grudges, and she gave you the opportunity to improve.
Right. But that's good that she wanted you to really mean an apology, because a lot of times we're like, well, yeah, I'm sorry that you feel that way. This kind of like surface level apology, not like, no, you're going to mean it. I'm not forgiving it till you mean it.
Yeah, she meant that. You had to change. You apologized, but now what were you going to do that was better?
Right.
How are we going to make amends if necessary? So.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to put you on the spot right now, actually.
Sure.
So do you have a favorite poem in your book there that you would want to share? Is there?
Oh, yes. I know.
I do that. It's so backwards.
Like at least 80 times today.
Yeah.
I have one. Let me find it. I'm sorry. I'm more prepared. Okay, so I wrote this. It's called Let the Clock Hand Keep Its Time. And I wrote it when I was missing someone very much. I hadn't seen this particular person in a very, very long time. And I was feeling very sad about it. And there was a clock ticking like in the background. So I try to write it so it sounds like a metronome that's in the pattern. And so for anybody out there who's missing anybody, who hasn't seen anybody, just know that you're stronger than time. And that was kind of like.
That's beautiful.
Let the clock hand keep its time. Let its bell ring. Let it chime. Let the moon phase pass above. Let it watch us close, my love. Let the darkness come and pass. Let it creep through window glass. Let the seasons change and turn. Let them make this hard earth yearn. Let them all do as they need. Mind them not, pay no heed. Let us stand here, heart made whole, bound together as one soul.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
Now, you want to know what's funny about the poems in that book is I would write them in a journal, and I hid the journal in the bottom of my closet.
Oh, wow.
So it was really hard for me to kind of be like, okay, here you go, world, take them. But it is really liberating at the same time.
It's hard to share that side of ourselves sometimes. We have those gifts. I'm a poet as well, lyricist, and it was hard. I did the same thing. Like, I literally wrote my life in journals through my high school years. So like every day of my life was documented, and going back, it's almost embarrassing to read them. Like, oh my God. But the poems and the songs, and it was really hard to get to that place where I could share, because it's almost like a diary. Like you said, it was somebody you were missing, and you want people to get it and understand it. And this is silly, but as a poet, I love poetry that rhymes. That's like
Yeah.
I mean, other poetry is beautiful too, but I've always connected with poetry that rhymes and is rhythmic.
So me too. I love the patterns, right?
Yeah.
You write songs, you're a lyricist, so you're always thinking in
You gotta
patterns.
count yeah.
So what's funny about this book is I wrote it in 3 parts, right? So it tells a story. So it's a story about love. The first part is when you fall in love and everything's wonderful and you can't believe you're so lucky. The second part is when there's trouble in paradise and you're not sure what in the world's going on. And the third part is when you're not even sure that you even loved each other at all. And then there's an epilogue, which is your choice about whether or not you want to go back and fall in love or not.
Wow.
And all the poems rhyme except the last one. And I did that on purpose.
Love it.
Because, sometimes when we're in love, we feel like we're in this spell.
Yeah.
And the last one doesn't rhyme. It's not this magical rhythmic spell. It's just really kind of flat. And it asks, did you love me?
Right. It's like a reality almost, like waking up from a dream and okay, now.
Exactly. That was
love that.
So the last poem is the one that doesn't rhyme. And then there's the epilogue.
Yeah, I got goosebumps. You're talking. I got to get your book now.
Let me know what you think of it.
What's that?
Let me know what you think of it.
Yeah, no, I got goosebumps just talking about it because I love walking somebody through a story that way, and that's fantastic. And I love the symbology then of the last poem. I love things like that where you just you can kind of get it. Just you talking about it, I'm like, I can't wait to read that now.
Thank you.
That is so awesome.
That's the weird part about letting it go is like folks like you be like, I think I can relate to that. And I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah, because I think that's what love is. I mean, and not just romantic love, even like family and other relationships is you're kind of under spell and you want to see the best in people. But then there's this wake up sometimes where you're like, oh, now I can see that person for who they really are. Yeah. And wow, do I want to continue this friendship, this whatever it is?
Yeah, you cycle through. And like I said, having my parents with an arranged marriage, we watched them go through challenging times. It wasn't always rosy, right?
Of course.
But they always recommitted. They went to the beginning of the book.
Wow.
And they started again. And I think that's how it is in relationships and marriages. We all have that ultimate choice. Do we forgive? Do we forget? Do we rebuild? Do we remember why we entered this relationship in the first place? What was it about this person? Or do we say we're done?
And see, I think for your parents, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I just feel like when you're in an arranged marriage like that, there's a different level of respect that has to come in with this other person, because you're not love. We have those rose-colored glasses on, where in an arranged marriage, it's almost like this level of respect that you have to have for the other person and build on that.
Correct.
So
that's what they do. And they still I think they still got to vote. My mom was like, all right, he's okay looking. And my father was like, I was told the story about he always saw my mother in his visions. So he knew that my father's more romantic, you could probably tell. So he
that's
always
awesome.
knew that my mom was going to be, the one for him. So he married her.
That's what a neat story, though.
It's a fascinating story, yeah. And my mother didn't believe him. She's like, you didn't see nothing. My father's like, no, I knew it was going to be you.
Oh, that's so. You need to write your mom's book. I think that would be an amazing,
fascinating study. I think I'd have to take 2 years off and just be like, Mom, start again.
She's right. I can only imagine her journey from being in Greece and then that whole part of it, like you said, and then coming to New York, and here's a whole different world and experience, and then raising kids. And
she's fascinating. She's a fascinating study. She lived in the UK. She lived in Chicago. She lived in Arizona. She went back, married my father, and then brought him to the States. And
wow,
New York.
That's so fascinating. I would love to read her story. Seriously, I think a lot of people out there would be.
What's great about it, and I'm fortunate in that Greek women aren't really very passive. So idea of my mom certainly, but most of them, at least in my family, I can only speak for my family and the women that I've met growing up. They're not exactly quiet, docile little,
Yeah.
And we were always encouraged to be our full selves. You were allowed to have an opinion. and avoid.
Right.
We weren't really shushed. So I think that kind of helped a lot too.
Yeah. And I think so. Yeah. And I think about you going through school and dealing with people and advocating for yourself. I mean, a lot of kids wouldn't have that, foresight to be able to say, no, God made me this way. So it's your problem, not mine.
It was Sunday school, really.
Yeah.
It was that wonderful, my Sunday school teacher, Presbytera, really. She was the priest's wife, and she kind of just had this lesson one day. And I was like, that's it. Because even in Sunday school, hello, I sat in the corner. Nobody wanted to sit next to me. Like, I wasn't a popular kid. People didn't play with me. Like, I wasn't invited to birthdays. It was
my gosh.
Yeah. So if any of you guys are out there or you have kids that are like that, don't worry about it. You know what they need? What I needed was my mom having my back, my sister being with me and having my back, and Christy and I are complete opposites, and I adore her, but we were very she always defended me, and I had my stories, I had my books, and that was enough. Like I think you just need to know that someone somewhere loves and accepts you however you are. Right. And it doesn't really matter for the rest of the world. They'll come along. I've done better now I'm older. And I don't know if some of it is just maturity levels, life experience, or however, but I don't even worry about that anymore. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. Oh well. Right. About that. I can't. None of us should try, I think, my opinion. None of us should try to get to change ourselves so that other people are more comfortable. Like that doesn't really work out all that well. So
I agree 100%. And I think it's important too that your mom didn't coddle you through that. I mean, I think it really gave you that toughness. And I think that's probably part of why a lot of kids, I'm not a teacher or an expert, whatever, but I feel like sometimes kids suffer because they're coddled too much almost. They don't have that thick skin,
I think you just have to keep going and teach your kids to keep going, and they'll see through you what you're doing and how you're managing. And my sons, even though he walked through the door when he wasn't supposed to, I think they know what I'm doing. They kind of have an idea. They came to my book launch party. They were cute. They were excited, and I hope that inspires them. That when they get older and there's something that they really want to achieve, that they just kind of go for it. Just go for it. What's the worst that happens? You fail?
Right.
Oh, well, we should try.
Right. And
there's no failure if you try.
And I think about, you tell your mom's story and how proud of her you are, but now think about your sons. They're going to say, my mom went through this whole experience and look at where she's at. She's an author and she's pursuing. So it seems strange looking at yourself that way, but your son is going to have that opinion of you as well.
We'll see. They have a lot of opinions of me.
Our kids always do, though. But
if anything happens to them, it's always the mom's fault. So I'm prepared. I tell them, I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm sure you'll figure it out in years of therapy. It's always the mom's fault.
Yes, I love it. Oh my gosh! So I could just sit here and talk to you forever. Honestly, this has been fantastic. So I have your link up here for Facebook. So if you want to get in contact with Valerie, her Facebook is facebook.com/Valerie Nifora. Are there other places people can find you or connect with you?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a website if you want to read more about the books. It's www.valerienifora.com. Really easy to find. So yeah, drop me a line. Let me know what you think. Love to hear what you think of the work or just anything in general. I'm around.
Awesome. Yeah. So make sure you follow her. I'm going to go out and buy your books because I'm just intrigued and I can't wait to read the stories and the poetry. And then, I'll definitely put up a review and stuff for you. And
thank you so much. It's very kind. Thanks, Wendy.
No, I love it. So thank you so much for coming on today. I'll have your episode uploaded to YouTube probably by the end of the week. And then it'll also be on my podcast. So I think people are going to just adore your story. And I love your positive, no nonsense attitude. Your mom and dad did a fantastic job.
I'll let her know.
Yes. And again, if you write her story, let us know because
I think about it. I think about it a lot, but I haven't yet. So
yeah.
see.
If you ever do, I want to get you back on here. We'll talk about it and we'll promote it.
With me, and then you
What's
can
it?
take my mom full on.
Oh, there we go. See, I'll get her on the podcast and interview her about her life.
She'll tell you stories. She's a good storyteller.
I would love that. If you think she'd come on, I would love to interview her. I'd love to hear her perspective and
She'll tell you everything that's wrong with me. She will.
That's awesome. She's got to be proud, though. I mean, look at all the challenges you have faced too, and that's awesome.
See. Jury's still out. She likes the kids, though.
They always love the grandkids best, right?
Yeah.
Spoil them and then send them home.
Well, thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this was great. Again, if you want to connect with Valerie, please visit her Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Visit her website at valerienifora.com. And we will see you all next week. Thank you again for joining us, Valerie.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.